You. Lord, we declare that this is a day that you have made. We will rejoice and will be exceedingly glad in it. Father, even as we gather for this press briefing, we welcome your presence. We ask you to be with us each and every step of the way. Guide our operations. Father, everything that is said here today, we pray, God, that it shall be for the advancement of the Ministry of National Security and Justice in Dominica. Father God, we just thank you and we commit these proceedings into your hands and we pray your blessings over it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Oh, good afternoon. Ready? Okay. Let me acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister for National Security and Legal Affairs, Honorable Reuben Blackmore, the Registrar General Acting of the High Court, the Deputy Registrar Acting of the High Court, the Chief Magistrate, and the Court Administrator who is sitting among you. I also want to thank the media, Dion in particular, for assisting us on such late notice, and the listening public, because I do believe that we are live. Now, in keeping with the ministry's pledge to keep the public updated of significant developments, we have called a brief press conference here today. So why are we here today? We just want to inform the public of some of the developments that we've made at the Magistrates Court and the High Court in terms of judges of the High Court, specifically a third judge for the Commonwealth of Dominica. We want to talk about as well the implementation of the criminal module of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court e-litigation portal in the Commonwealth of Dominica, and we also want to welcome one of the new judges to the territory. The ECSC undertook the implementation from the 2nd to the 13th of September, and that is the criminal module of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court e-litigation. What we have discovered is that the ECSC has quickly become a hub of technology and innovation due to its forward-thinking approach to litigation. From the inception of GEMS to the upgraded version and even its website, the ECSC is continuously finding ways to innovate. And this is in keeping with Dominica's own goals of using technology for development, innovation, and improving access to justice and overall improving access to certain administrative processes. Likewise, we are very excited to announce that we now have a third judge, which will, I think, lead to a great reduction in our current backlog. So without further ado, I will call on the Honorable Minister to open the press conference, and we will have a few speakers thereafter.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much, Ms. Joan Commodore, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs. Let me also acknowledge the Registrar General Acting and also the Chief Magistrate who prayed for us this morning. I also want to recognize the Deputy Registrar General, and special good morning to you, you the members of the media fraternity, and the Government Press Secretary, and Dominicans listening in Dominica, and those of you listening further afield. As we heard from the Permanent Secretary, one of our commitments within the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, and in keeping with the government's mandate to ensure that our people are properly informed, we intend going forward to have updates as to the progress we have made in various spheres within the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs and the government of Dominica by extension. You will recognize that your government is building this country block by block. And the overall development of any country is also tied to the legal system. And a legal system which actually creates a platform for the proper administration of justice and access to justice. That has been something that has been spoken about for a long period of time. And you may recall that in one of the Prime Minister's press conferences some months ago, he made reference to government's intention to engage in through, of course, the instrumentality of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, a third judge. And I believe that is important as we seek to ensure that the issue of backlogs at the Supreme Court level specifically as it refers to civil matters, can be addressed. And a couple months ago, I met with the members of the Bar Association. And one of the issues that they raised was the need for a third judge to deal specifically with civil matters, especially as it refers to caveats, among others. Now, how have we been able to get there to ensure that we have the accommodation for the third judge that we speak of? You may recall, immediately after the passage of the worst hurricane in the history of Dominica, in the history of the Caribbean and the world, there was a big hoopla as to the conditions at the court. At that time, the Supreme Court, inclusive of the registry, was located at the old registry building on the bayfront. What we have done, as we promised, and as we did during several national budget presentation, we gave the commitment that in quick order that we were going to ensure that we build appropriate accommodation to house the registry and inclusive, of course, of the Supreme Court. We actually had a very futuristic view as to how we were about to do that. And you may recall that previously that we only had 2 courts at the Supreme Court level. One for criminal sittings and, of course, for the civil sitting. What we did in our planning is to ensure that when we retrofitted the second and third floors of the old post office building, we spent, the government spent $3.7 million to ensure that we had all the functionalities needed in a modern court sitting. So as we speak now, we have 3 courts. So 3 courts can be held simultaneously at the same time at the current building. So we're pleased this morning. I'm very happy because there has been an ongoing discussion between the government, the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, and the government at the highest level, also the Prime Minister, engaging the former Chief Justice on the need for a third judge. And we're happy that with the new acting Chief Justice, that we have been able to actually have that reality today and going forward. We're happy that we have our own son of the soil, Mr. Baptist, Davison Baptist, a former appeal judge in the Caribbean region, of course, a proud Dominican, a man of the soil, a great Dominican. And we're happy to have him here. And we're happy, of course, we can ensure that people with issues, with grievances, especially as it relates to civil matters, can have their matters resolved in quick dispatch. Now, we have ensured that this third court building, to ensure that it's ready in terms of the logistics, the proper recording system, the proper electronics appliances, etc., and equipment, the staffing. We have been able to ensure that we did new posting within the ministry to ensure that the judge is ready to go. So as we speak, the judge is ready to go in terms of the logistics required and all the other enabling environment to ensure that the third judge that we are so happy to have with us today can function. So as we speak, we have 1 judge to deal with criminal matters, and we have 2 judges to deal with civil matters. This is the government, and who has always made promises and pledges, and by way of our policy measures and our policy instruments and programs, we're ensuring that we meet those commitments and pledges that we have made to the Dominican people. And brick by brick, we will continue to build this Dominica on their behalf. Now, at the magistrate court level, we have done some work, and this at the magistrate court level, we have most of the matters, as from a criminal standpoint, being heard. And so you deal with both matters that are supposed to be sent to the High Court. We call them PIs. And then we have a paper committee arrangement now, but those matters must go before the magistrate court before they can move to the High Court. And then we have a number, most of our issues in terms of offenses from a criminal standpoint, actually are summary matters which have to be disposed by a magistrate court. So there's a tremendous level of work on that lower court. So what we have done, we have been able to engage 1 additional magistrate who is now posted in Portsmouth. We are advertising for 2 additional magistrates, And we believe that we should move to a point, as we heard from the Prime Minister previously, to have night courts. To have night courts. So especially as it relates to civil matters, people in the business community sometimes they may be engaged during the working hours, and maybe it's better to maybe start have a court sitting from 6 and beyond. And that is something that we will be actually going forward, we'll be putting in place. And then the whole issue has to do from the administrative standpoint to ensure that we have the capacity to ensure that magistrates can be properly assigned and dates for cases can be properly dealt with. And all that is being done with the view of dealing with the issue of backlogs, etc. Now, within the Caribbean space, this is one of the most vexing issues, is the issue as to how do we deal with the issue of backlog, etc. Some of us don't want to talk about it, but Dominica, of course, was the only country in the region within the OECS catchment. Before, of course, we had the recent hurricane that actually devastated some islands in Grenada and St. Vincent. We had the reality of Maria. And subsequent to that, we had COVID. So that in itself, inadvertently, will impact on the number of cases that we have within the system. But we are steadfast in our attempt as a government to ensure that we do everything possible to ensure that the administration of justice can move smoothly. A couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we had a program on DBS Radio, and we had the director of legal aid. Because sometimes when we speak about access to justice, we speak about it from a one-dimensional standpoint. I will not take into account some of the good things that we're doing. And Dominica is one of the only countries within the OECS, if not the only, where the government is paying for the services at legal aid in terms of the staffing. So every staff member within the legal aid department or clinic is being paid by the government of Dominica. The office space is being paid by the government of Dominica. The fees have been subsidized by the government of Dominica. Can you imagine for a transfer, transfer of a title, you can go to legal aid. If you meet the criteria, you have to follow the form. You pay $150 for the service. I don't want to promote divorce. $500, this is a giveaway. You see? Those are the things that we're doing. Protection orders. $250. You know, this is what the Labour Party is all about. It's ensuring that the ordinary man, irrespective of the social space you occupy, your financial or economic circumstance, you should have access to a lawyer. You should have access to legal services. And that is how we are determined as a government to ensure that we build this country block by block. Not only in terms of ensuring that we have good infrastructure, housing, but the legal services, the legal system itself. Without a well-functioning legal system, you can have a situation whereby the country can be in a dysfunctional state. And I'm happy that we are here this morning. So we have the Chief Magistrate here this morning and also the Registrar General and the Deputy. And I want to commend, you see a few young ladies there. That's all, a few young ladies. And we're doing very well in ensuring that, and I can recall that after Hurricane Maria, the Chief Magistrate walked, and walked, hitched ride and walked to come into Roseau, trying to actually salvage some of our records at the court. That's how bad it was. They had to reconstruct cases, case files. So I want to just give that perspective for us to understand and to look at the situation confronting this country as we strive to develop this country, but what we have been through as a country, as a people, and the gains we have been able to make. So thank you very much, and we're here to take a question, and I will listen to the Chief Magistrate and Registrar General. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your remarks, Honourable Minister. Registrar General, I will call on you now to give a few remarks.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Nureya Sebastian. I'm the acting Registrar General and Registrar of the High Court. I wish to
recognize the presence of the Honorable Minister, the PS, the Chief Magistrate, the Deputy Registrar of the High Court, and Miss Natasha Pond, the Court Administrator at the Magistrates Court. I wish to say good afternoon to each and every one of you and everyone listening. I will just give an update as to our complement of judges right now. So we now have a new civil judge, Justice Zainab Jawara Alami, who hails from the Gambia in Africa. Her ladyship is not new to the bench and was a judge in the Gambia before she relocated to Dominica. She was sworn into office on the 30th of August 2024, and her appointment took effect from the 1st of September 2024. Her ladyship is in office and has begun the work of the court. Our most recent appointment, His Lordship Justice Davidson Kelvin Baptiste, retired Justice of Appeal, and as the Honorable Minister indicated, a son of the soil, and we are quite happy to have him with us. He was sworn in as High Court Judge on the 13th of September 2024 by the Honorable Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. His appointment takes effect from the 23rd of September, that is today, 2024, and until the 22nd of December 2024. Therefore, His Lordship is here. His appointment takes effect today, and he is prepared to work to bring the outstanding matters, to deal with the outstanding matters of the court, the long outstanding matters. So he's here to deal with the civil, primarily land-related matters. His Lordship is, we've had initial discussions and so on, and he's ready and prepared to try to get things at a level where we do not have such backlogs in the system. Our criminal judge is Justice Colin Williams. I've indicated where everyone else comes from, so he hails from the island of St. Vincent, and he's been with us from September last year, September 2023, and I think our first trial for the September session actually began today. So court is in session, and we are ready and willing to do what is necessary to try to deal with cases in an efficient manner. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Permit me to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister for National Security, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, the Chief Registrar, and the Deputy Registrar. Also, Court Administrator, Mrs. Natasha Pond. I'd like just to present for a few very brief minutes on the launching of the criminal module of the e-litigation portal. As PS alluded to earlier, a team from the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court was present here on island from the 2nd of September to the 13th of September of this year. In the first week that they stayed here, training was done for magistrates, judges, and staff of the registry, the Supreme Court, High Court, and the Magistrates Court staff. And if anyone is wondering what really is the e-litigation portal, well, it's really that the court is going paperless. We are becoming electronic, moving into technology. Sometime last year, the Magistrates Court, the civil module of the e-litigation portal was launched for the Magistrates Court. It had been in operation at the High Court for some time, but it was launched on the 13th of July of last year for the Magistrates Court. And what that really meant is that civil matters, all civil matters, and domestic violence matters, they went electronic. So instead of matters being filed on paper, it could be done in front of a computer, and this is what happened as regards criminal cases this year. So on the 12th of this month, we went live with the criminal module, and that includes all criminal matters, even quasi-criminal matters, private criminal matters, traffic matters, parking ticket matters, juvenile matters, and so on. Which means that almost everything that the magistrate court deals with, it's now, it can be filed electronically. And how does this help us? Well, number one, the lawyers and people seeking to access justice, they don't necessarily have to physically walk into the magistrate's court to file matters. Before, you would have to come, get your forms, fill out your forms, and go to the general post office, buy adhesive stamps, and then come fill out your papers or type out your papers and then stick your stamps on it and come physically to the magistrate's court to file matters. Now, with this launch of the e-litigation portal, a lawyer can sit in his or her office, in front of his or her computer, and file matters. And their credit card is attached to the portal, so they can just use their credit card and pay for the stamps. So they don't have to physically, stick stamps on the forms anymore. So it has made it really easy for people seeking to access justice to do that electronically. And the public, it also helps the public, because at the magistrates court, we have a lot of people coming in. They would even stop magistrates on the road and ask, what's my date? Your Honor, you know my date? Or just approach anybody working in the court. They want to know what's their next date. Come into the office a lot. A lot of phone calls, just trying to find out when is my matter coming up again. And the portal makes it possible for the public to just go online, access the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court's website, go to the litigation portal, and be able to find what is the next date that their matter is coming up. The lawyers, the information as to what happens in court, some of it is uploaded onto the system, so the lawyers are able to go to see what are the next steps if they miss court or anything like that. So these are basically the ways in which it will help, and probably number one for us is that the portal lends to resiliency. I always like to think back on Hurricane Maria. At that time, our court's office, magistrate's court office, was situated at the Tropicrafts building on Independence Street and Turkey Lane. And the roof went during the hurricane, and a lot of our files were compromised. A lot of them got wet, some were destroyed, but most of them they just got really wet, that some of the information was illegible, Some could be salvaged. So the ministry had to send some NEP workers to the magistrates court to start help us with the process of reconstruction and just transcribing new forms, trying to see what they could make out to put on the new forms and so on. And it was a very tedious task. It took a little while because you can imagine the volume of cases and files that we have at the magistrates court. So towards the end, some of them started turning moldy and all of that. So the e-litigation portal will really help to eliminate a problem like that in the future. Now that everything is electronic, everything is online, there will be almost no need for paper files anymore. Everything will be online. So in the instance when we have natural disasters and so on, the information should be safe, and we would not have a repeat as to what happened after Maria. So we are really grateful for this new initiative. We are grateful for this launching of the criminal module, which means that almost all our cases are now electronic, and we welcome this initiative. We also want to thank the ministry, and it's been a while since we got our new magistrate, Mr. Neil Rupasinghe, and he is located in District G. So he covers from the Carib Territory to Kolihu. That district had been without a magistrate for a while, from April of the previous year, and it caused a bit of problems in terms of backlog and so on, not having a magistrate, as you can imagine. So we really welcomed the move to have somebody that we could place there, and he is working and trying to reduce the backlog at this point. So I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we can open the floor to questions.
John Baptist Emonews. I did not hear anything about the family courts. Every time I go on the court's website, I know some time ago this has been a major issue. Across the Caribbean, there's the family court, and people are talking about that. Can you give us an update as to the family court? Where are we at this point in time? The other issues that I have is, it's nice and dandy, I'm hearing lots of nice things, but I went to the High Court. There were 9 matters up on the list, and the judge is crying, he has no work to do. 3 matters were dispensed of immediately. 2 persons pleaded guilty, they were discharged. So that is 2, 4, you only have 5 matters. 1 started today. So basically, there's no work. The amount of matters that are pending in the magistrate's court, a lot of matters. I'm there almost all the time. And people are clamoring for justice. Matters, the judge is asking for work, and matters are still there in the magistrate's court, clogging the system. Lawyers will send letter, and then you hear, well, final adjournment, and then nothing happening. What else needs to be done to move those matters to the High Court? There was a matter there 7 years, and a basic matter, 3 witnesses, 7 years, it's in the system.
The Chief Magistrate is there, but I wanted to speak to the fundamental policies of the government. When we moved this registry, inclusive of the Supreme Court, to the new building, what we did, because you can recall, before, the registry was upstairs of the building where the magistrate court was being held, downstairs. We have been able to standardize the manner in which the magistrate court operates. So having moved the registry and the Supreme Court to the new location that I just spoke about when I spoke there initially, we now have 6 courtrooms. We now have 6 courtrooms in that building. This is historic. You heard me speak earlier on about moving into to the night court. The other thing we're looking at is looking at the system, the administrative system at the magistrate court. You heard me spoke about the need, of course, to ensure that data issues and caseload per magistrate. Now, those things are assigning the caseload to magistrate. This is administrative matters to be dealt with by the court administrator and the chief magistrate. What we're doing and what we're thinking of and is to looking at the same way we have a registrar for the Supreme Court, we have a registrar for the magistrate court to deal with issues of assigning dates and assigning caseload, etc., and other administrative matters. I made reference to moving to the High Court. One more thing I'd like to make reference to. That is what we're doing from a policy standpoint. The magistrate has to manage and take control of his or bench. The other issue is that we introduced years ago what you call paper committal. The word paper committal speaks for itself. Almost automatic committal to the High Court. You see? So where you have the lawyers and the state, or the prosecutor, representing the state, agreeing on the evidence. So that was done with the intent of ensuring that matters at the magistrate court could be disposed of quickly and sent up to the High Court for hearing. Because what you're trying to establish at the PI stage is whether there is enough evidence. You're not trying the case for someone to answer at the higher court. So you have a deposition, and etc., and that is disposed of at the magistrate at the high Supreme Court level. I was an investigator who dealt with a lot of cases: murders, burglary, rape, etc. And when I went to the magistrate court, we had no paper committal. So most times you had the evidence of the what you call a virtual complainant. Yeah, if you had an expert witness, and then if you had to tender an exhibit into evidence, and maybe one other witness, and the matter went up to the High Court. So these are issues that have to be dealt with by the court, and you made reference to lawyers also. Now, if you have a paper committal matter, why should that matter take 6 months, etc.? Why should you have a hearing on this matter? So the intention of the paper committal. So what we're looking at is to make further amendment to that process to get it closer to what obtains in places like St. Lucia. But again, in countries where, because I can make reference to some countries where they have almost circumvented the PI process at the magistrate court, and matters go straight to the High Court or the Supreme Court. What you have now at the Supreme Court in many countries is a backlog at the Supreme Court level, because you don't have enough judges to dispose of the matters at the High Court level, Supreme Court levels. So what you need is to have players within the criminal justice system who understand the role and to understand that each one of us involved in the process has a role to play to ensuring that the wheels of justice come go smoothly. So I leave the rest to the Chief Magistrate.
I really like where the Honorable Minister left off, that each one of us need to play our role to ensure that the wheels of justice spin smoothly. Mr. John Baptist is asking why my matters are taking so long to go through the system, and why enough work is not being sent to the High Court, or why enough matters are not being sent. And what I can say, we work in a system. We work with a lot of people. When somebody is brought before the court, you have to deal with witnesses. The police have to do their investigations. After they do it, people have to be brought before the court. When they're brought before the court, it's a lot of things involved. There needs to be service of summons to get witnesses, to get people to come to court. Experts must testify a lot in these preliminary inquiries. Doctors, pathologists, different kinds of experts. And it is not the magistrates coming and just dealing with the matters. The people must be brought to court so that magistrates can examine. And from where I sit, I can say that our magistrates are at work and we are ready to deal with the cases. But if the prosecution is not ready, there's nothing we can do. And a lot of times I make noise. I think every police in Dominica would know. And I don't think it's me alone making noise. I think it's all magistrates. We are there. We are ready to do our work. But the prosecution needs to be ready so that we can examine witnesses, we can conclude matters, and we can commit to the High Court. If you're there ready to do a case, there's no witness to examine. You cannot examine. I told somebody the other day, you cannot examine the air. So it's a lot of sectors of society, a lot of people coming into play, and everybody must pull their weight for the wheels of justice to spin smoothly. And if there's just a brick in the system somewhere, then everything falls. I agree that there's a lot to be done, but everybody has to pull their weight so that what needs to be done is done. Yes.
You have answered the, no one has answered the issue as it relates to the family court.
Okay, as regards the family court, what I can say is that although the family court per se is not established, we do the magistrates court. We do family matters. At the magistrates court, we do family matters. There are days, specific days set aside every week for family court. So we deal with maintenance matters, we deal with domestic violence matters, we deal with juvenile matters, and there are specific days assigned specifically for family court. So it's not like because there is not a court labeled family court means that family matters are not being dealt with. Every family matter that is brought before the court, it's being dealt with. So it's just that probably on one day of the week we use the same court to deal with something else. So we don't want to really label it as family court, but we deal with all family matters that come before the magistrates court. Yes.
Yes, just to add to what the Chief Magistrate said, relative to your question on the family court. And just recently, as you know, we again issued a contract for a lawyer, a magistrate, to deal specifically with family matters, as you heard the Chief Magistrate made reference to. Now, we have been looking at, as you know, we actually enacted into law, a series of family bills. That's historic. Maintenance insofar as it relates to spouse and children. We dealt with the issue of the status of right of children. No more, on our law books we have what do you call, how do you call them again? We recognize within the law that every child has equal right. There's nothing like bastard. This is an antiquated, ancient language that we have dealt with. And, okay, we deal with issue as to parental rights. Looking at, of course, dealing with some of the biases that was actually in the law insofar as the rights of fathers were concerned. We dealt with all that. And then the issue about the family court. So we are currently looking, but we think we have enough space downstairs to have an area, we have started the process, an area to have the label of family court, specifically, which is required, okay, to ensure that we have counselors who are specifically assigned within the family court, as opposed to having them in the social services. So they'll be at the locality within the courts to operate. So we have, because as I said just now, we have 6 court rooms down at that building. And you can recall that we have moved the civil court downstairs. So we're now in the process of moving the library to the new location at the High Court, Supreme Court and Registry, and we have enough space. And so Mr. Stout, who's our architect, have been looking at that and to come up with a design. So this is a government that is futuristic, and we are thinking. But yes, family matters have been disposed of in quick time, and we have somebody with the passion who was instrumental in ensuring that the family laws were enacted by the name of Ms. Gloria Augustus. She deals specifically with family matters.
From a layman's perspective on this thing, is there need for police training or policemen in reporting of cases, in documenting of cases to get this process cycle expedited?
one of the requirements, insofar as it relates to the series of family bills that we passed, was to ensure that we have the enabling infrastructure. And then, especially as it deals with domestic violence. So to ensure that we have a specific department under the umbrella of the Criminal Investigation Department, where I worked, CID, with police officers specifically trained to deal with the issue of domestic violence. And also from a district level, there's a protocol in which reports have to be made, and the person who's in charge of the district has to ensure that that information, insofar as a report is concerned, of any form of domestic violence or any form of abuse, okay, can be dealt with speedily. Of course, as time progresses, there will be need for further training, but of course, even within the social services, we have to ensure that, as it refers to battered women or spouses, man fellows hate when I say women, because you always tell me that men getting battered too. Which is true, I understand that, but the fact is, let me just say, that the victims most time in domestic violence are the women. Let's be serious about it. So to ensure that we have proper shelters, etc., for people who are abused, men or women, all these things that we're looking at. And so I believe that this is a progressive move by the government to ensure that we have the enabling laws, and then ensuring that we work to further perfecting the structures that we need to give effect to those laws.
Once you are there, I also...
Before you go, for matter of fact, I want to comment on the Chief of Police. Acting Chief of Police. What we have been seeing is a series of lectures and training for police officers over the past 7 months. It happened before. And the PS, the Permanent Secretary can say to you that the number of police officers going on training overseas, I mean, that's unprecedented.
And did it get back to
Listen, we're in a disciplinary environment now. We can answer a question. All right? So that is what we can, for matter of fact, the Prime Minister always ensure that training for the police is given priority. Now, we also, and having said that, we'll be starting recruit training early next month, where we shall be training an additional 60 police recruit. Because what is important is to ensure that we go back to a culture where we can see a greater visibility of our police officers in the city and in the communities, etc. And that's what we are striving for, is to have a specific beat unit. Beat unit. I still have my big book. So I know all the bits in Roseau, which had to be covered during the day and 2 o'clock in the morning. Because the first place I worked before I came to CID was General. I worked there for 3 weeks. So I know the bits around Roseau. And when you were detailed from 10 to 2 or 2 to 6, within an hour and a half, a supervisor would have visited you on the beat and signed, and so that we were said, sign in the pocketbook that you're found to have been alert. We want to go back to those days. So that is important. Unless we can get to that, of ensuring that we have our officers back on the street, okay? That's what the government is striving for. In terms of training, and specific to what you ask, we're also ensuring that the issue of report writing and the protecting of the crime scene, ensuring that the chain of custody of the evidence collected is not compromised, and all these fundamentals that can actually affect the outcome of a case can be dealt with. We're bringing in to assist, because we have talent within our local space. We have a former retired police superintendent. We used to call him Perimis in CID. When I came to CID as a young man, as a recruit, I met the likes of Mr. Duke Savary and Mr. Simon Darrow, who ended up being Commissioner of Police. These are the folks that I worked with as a young constable. And so he is going to assist in having lectures, so we're going to engage him starting next month, so we can have those courses we could train as many police officers as possible in the area of report writing, collecting of evidence. How do you protect a crime scene to avoid contamination? All those things are important. Ensuring that what you need to do when you get to the crime scene, because what to do at the crime scene is critical. For example, when you encounter or you confront or you apprehend suspects, they say to you certain things they will never say to you again. But they must be smart enough on the alert. So whatever they say to you at the time of, you make a note in your pocketbook and you make them sign it. That's the evidence. Those basic stuff there, of course, we have to go back to and to have it within the psyche of the police officers. But I must say to you as I end, I still believe that, the police force is very dear to my heart. That's the only job I wanted to do. I don't know who told me to get involved in politics, but I did. But you see, I believe that the police force in Dominica is still the best in the West Catch. But I can tell that to you. I've interfaced with a number of ministers over the years. I can tell you that we have a caliber of men and women in Dominica that we have to be proud of. Yes, there's a lot more work to be done, and we have to hold them accountable. The police is accountable to the public, but never underestimate the hard work and the brilliance of the officers of Dominica.
I'm very happy that you mentioned about training, because that seems to be the core of the matter. Officers are sent to train, and then they're called in court. They are the chief investigators, and they're absent. They're out of state. How long? And again, I go back to the High Court, where a simple matter with 3 witnesses, the DPP is asking the judge to put that matter until December. His Lordship said December I won't be sitting. The investigator is out of state. And 3 witnesses. So when will justice be done? Those situations there, why do we have those situations? I mean, this is appalling.
Yes. Okay. If I may, I can't answer hypothetical question. This is hypothetical. I'm not sure as to why the investigating officer is out of state. It could be on leave. It could be an ailment. I want to make reference also to my own experience as an investigator. When I left to go to university, before I left, I had to ensure that I gave evidence on all the matters I had. Because once you give evidence at the law court, you have what you call a deposition. And a deposition is evidence. But sometimes you can have stubborn lawyers who may say they want to actually question the witness at the High Court, notwithstanding the fact that the deposition was given at the law court. And when they gave the deposition, when they gave evidence at the law court, there was an opportunity for the defense to question you. Do you get my point? But that is the right that's what they call due process. That is also the right of the lawyer to so ask for. So we have to understand how the justice system works. So I don't want to stand there and say or to condemn anyone. What I can say is that your government is doing everything possible from a policy standpoint to ensure that the wheel of justice can spin. The players who are involved to ensure the smooth spinning of all the spokes in the wheel, to do it to have a moral and legal responsibility. You understand? Because a lawyer is an officer of the court outside and within the precinct of the court. So all of us, not only the politician, my role and the role of the Prime Minister is to ensure that from a policy standpoint, we provide everything that needs to be provided from a policy standpoint. All right? We cannot save as an investigator. We cannot save as a magistrate. We certainly cannot save as a judge. What we will expect is that when decisions are being taken and contemplated, that the interest of society is placed first. Because the only transcending interest is that of the public. So even if a matter is pending for several years, The question is, why is he suspended for 7 years? You heard the chief magistrate made reference to Hurricane Mario, where COVID, you have other players. But if somebody is charged for a brutal murder or shooting, you have to weigh, you understand, whose interest is best served. Whether to let off this guy or to ensure that he got justice. Do you get my point? Those are fundamental issues that cannot be answered and dealt with by the Prime Minister or the Minister. Those are matters that reside within the consciences of those with the level of competence to decide on matters. That's all I have to say.
Any other question? Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, I want to wrap up our press conference and thank everybody for coming. Have a pleasant day, everybody.
Once again, this live was brought to you by Emonews and Team Emonews. Thanks for joining.